France is a country in Western Europe. France borders the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean. To the west is the Bay of Biscay, to the north is the English Channel and the North Sea. France also has territory in South America, the Caribbean, and the Indian Ocean, as well as numerous territories of various status. Area. Total area, 674,843 km2, whole territory of the French Republic, including all the overseas departments and territories, but excluding the disputed French territory of Terre de Copyright Lie in Antarctica. Metropolitan France, 551,695 km2, metropolitan, that is European, France only, French National Geographic Institute data. Metropolitan France, 543,965 km2, metropolitan, that is European, France only, French Land Register data, which exclude lakes, ponds, glaciers larger than 1 km2, and estuaries. Terrain. Mostly flat plains or gently rolling hills in north and west. Elevation extremes, lowest point, Rhône River Delta -2 m, highest point, Mont Blanc 4,808 m, land use, arable land, 33.46%, permanent crops, 2.03%, other, 64.51%, irrigated land, 26,700 km squared, total renewable water resources, 189 km3, natural resources, coal, iron ore, bauxite, zinc, uranium, antimony, arsenic, potash, feldspar, fluorspar, gypsum, timber, fish, gold, natural hazards, flooding, avalanches, midwinter windstorms, drought, forest fires in the south near the Mediterranean, earthquakes, environment. Some forest damage from acid rain. Flora and fauna. An open grassland during the Pleistocene Ice Age, France gradually became forested as the glaciers retreated starting in 10,000 BC. Clearing of the primeval forests began in Neolithic times, but they were still fairly extensive until major clearing began in medieval times. By the 15th century, France had largely been denuded of its forests and was forced to rely on Scandinavia and their North American colonies for lumber. Significant remaining forested areas are in the Gascony region in north and the Alsace-Ardennes area. The Ardennes Forest was the scene of extensive fighting in both world wars. In prehistoric times, France was home to large predatory animals such as wolves and brown bears, as well as herbivores such as elk. The larger fauna have disappeared outside of the Pyrenees Mountains where bears live as a protected species. Smaller animals include martens, wild pigs, foxes, weasels, bats, rodents, rabbits, and assorted birds. The upper central part of the scene is dominated by the Paris Basin, which consists of a layered sequence of sedimentary rocks. Fertile soils over much of the area make good agricultural land. The Normandy coast to the upper left is characterized by high, chalk cliffs, while the Brittany coast is highly indented where deep valleys were drowned by the sea, and the Biscay coast to the southwest is marked by flat, sandy beaches. Political geography, internal divisions. France has several levels of internal divisions. The first level administrative division of integral France's regions. Besides this, the French Republic has sovereignty over several other territories, with various administrative levels. Metropolitan France is divided into 21 ra copyright guilds and one territorial collectivity, Corsica. However, Corsica is referred to as a region in common speech. These regions are subdivided into 96 DA copyright departments, which are further divided into 329 arrondissements, which are further divided into 3,879 cantons, which are further divided into 36,568 communes. 5 overseas regions, Guadeloupe, French Guiana, Martinique, Mayotte, and Ra Copyright Union, with identical status to metropolitan regions. Each of these overseas regions also being an overseas DA copyright department, with the same status as a DA copyright department of metropolitan France. This double structure is new, due to the recent extension of the regional scheme to the overseas DA copyright departments, and may soon transform into a single structure, with the merger of the regional and departmental assemblies. Another proposed change is that new DAR copyright departments are created, such as in the case of RA Copyright Union, where it has been proposed to create a second DAR copyright department in the south of the island, with the RA Copyright GIN of RA Copyright Union above these two DAR copyright departments. For overseas collectivities, St. Pierre and Miquelon, St. Bartholomew Copyright Lemmy, St. Martin, and Wallis and Futuna. One overseas country, French Polynesia. In 2003 it became an overseas collectivity. Its statutory law of February 27, 2004 gives it the particular designation of overseas country inside the Republic, but without legal modification of his status. One sui generis collectivity, New Caledonia, whose status is unique in the French Republic. One overseas territory, the French Southern and Antarctic lands divided into 5 districts, Kerguelen Islands, Crozet Islands, Amsterdam Island and Île Saint Paul, Ada Copyright Land, and the Scattered Islands. One uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Mexico which belongs directly to the Central State Public Land and is administered by the High Commissioner of the French Republic in French Polynesia, Clipperton. Boundaries, land boundaries, total 4,082.2 km, 2889 km, 1183 km, 10.2 km. Border countries, Andorra 56.6 km, Belgium 620 km, Germany 451 km, Italy 488 km, Luxembourg 73 km, Monaco 4.4 km, Spain 623 km, Switzerland 573 km, Brazil 673 km, Suriname 510 km, 1183 km, Sint Maarten 10.2 km. Coastline, 3,427 km, 378 km, 306 km, 350 km, 207 km. Maritime claims, contiguous zone, 24 mi, continental shelf, 200 m depth or to the depth of exploitation, exclusive economic zone, 200 mi. Does not apply to the Mediterranean, territorial sea, 12 mi. Extreme points, this is a list of the extreme points of France. The points that are farther north, south, east or west than any other location. France, northernmost point to Euro-Brodunes, Nord at 51°05 €² N2 32 €² E, southernmost point to Euro-Puig de Comenigra, La Marnerie, Pira copyright Na copywriters Orientals at 42°20 €² N2 31 €² E, westernmost point to Euro-Point de Corson, Plouwermetsel, Finisterre at 48°24 €² N4 47 €² W, easternmost point to Euro-La Terbourg, Bazrinat. 48°58 €² N8 13 €² E, France, northernmost point to Euro-Brodunes, Nord at 51°05 €² N2 32 €² E, southernmost point to Euro-Alais-Lavezzi, Bonifacio, Course du Sud at 41°20 €² N9 15 €² E, westernmost point to Euro-Elevachant, Lamprol Plouwermetsel, Finisterre at 48°27 €² N5 08 €² W, easternmost point to Euro-San Giuliano, Haute Course at 42°17 €² N9 33 €² E, France, northernmost point to Euro-Brodunes, Nord at 51°05 €² N2 32 €² E, southernmost point to Euro-Saint Joseph, Ra Copyright Union at 22°23 €² S55 38 €² E, westernmost point to Euro-Point Noir, Guadeloupe at 16. 16 €² N61 48 €² W, easternmost point to Euro-Saint Rose, Ra Copyright Union at 21°11 €² S55 50 €² E, France, northernmost point to Brodunes, Nord at 51°05 €² N2 32 €² E, Southernmost point are registered trademark Les de Boynes, Kerguelen Islands, French Southern and Antarctic lands at 50°01 a euro squared s 68 degree. 52 a euro squared e. Westernmost point Atoll Oak, Futuna, Wallis and Futuna at 14 degree 42 a euro squared s 178 degree 33 a euro squared w. Easternmost point Hunter Island, New Caledonia at 22 degree 31 a euro squared s 172 degree 6 a euro squared e. Antipodes, the land hemisphere a euro the half of the earth with the most land a euro is centered on Nantes. Thus the Antipodes of France are in the middle of the water hemisphere in the South Pacific. The only significant land mass antipodal to metropolitan France is the Chatham Islands of New Zealand, corresponding to an area north of Montpellier including much of the Car Copyright Vennes National Park, though the Antipodes of the uninhabited Bounty Islands are between Tours, all the copyright Annes, and Le Mans, and those of the likewise uninhabited Antipodes Islands are in Normandy, near Saint-Saëns outside of Rouen. However, French overseas possessions are widespread enough that Clipperton Island and Ra Copyright Union are passably close to being antipodal to each other, and several are antipodal to other countries. The Indonesian island of Buru, for example, finds its antipodes within French Guiana, as do a few smaller islands. The French Antarctic territory of Kerguelen is opposite the border between the Canadian provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan and the U.S. state of Montana. New Caledonia and the Loyalty Islands overlap Mauritania and southern Western Sahara, with the Mauritanian town of Zourat corresponding to the Isle of Pines. Wallis and Futuna are antipodal to Niger north of Niamey. In French Polynesia, the Marquesas are opposite central Ethiopia. The Society Islands of northern Sudan, with Tahiti close to antipodal with Al-Dabai on the Nile. The Austral Islands cover southern Egypt and Saudi Arabia. The Tuamotus cover a broad swathe of Sudan, northern Eritrea, the Red Sea, and Saudi Arabia, with Khartoum antipodal to Rangiroh and Jeddah close to Tematangi. The Gambia Islands overlap Arabia, with Mangarvat between Riyadh and Mecca. See also, Regions of France, list of 15 largest French metropolitan areas by population, Gare Copyright au Portel, Institut Gare Copyright Graphique National, lists, list of islands of France, list of lakes in France, list of national parks of France, rivers of France, general, geography of Europe, references. External links, French, Gare Copyright au Portel, Geography Portal of France, high-altitude imagery, maps. A detailed map of France showing all RA copyright GINs and numbered DA copyright departments, including their PRA copyright fectures.